We were 3 rooms in when the wizard looked at me and said, "Wait, why are we even here?" Not one player had an answer. There was a hallway full of skeletons, then a room full of spiders, then a pit trap, and not a single clue about who built the place, why it existed, or what we were supposed to be doing inside it. And that's when I realized we were inside the worst dungeon ever. Designing a good dungeon isn't easy, but bad dungeons? They're everywhere. Hello folks, welcome to the DM Lair. I'm Luke Hart, and on this channel I share my nearly 30 years whatever, who cares, of Game Master experience so that you can run amazing games that your players will love. Nobody cares how long you've been doing it. Either you're good at it or you're bad at it. Does anything else really matter? And today we're talking about the biggest dungeon design mistakes, and I'll show you exactly how to fix them. These are the problems that make players check out and the solutions that bring your adventures back to life. And remember, when I say dungeon, I really just mean any adventure location in your game. So even if your D&D group never delves into actual dungeons, everything here still applies. Now, as you may recall, I wrote Into the Fae a few years back, and now I've got something epic brewing just for you. Imagine this: your players defeat a powerful Fae hag, only to realize they're trapped in the Feywild. And the only way out? Travel across a wildly enchanted plain, outwit the Queen Below's lieutenants, and gather her 8 charms. But here's the twist. These aren't your run-of-the-mill dungeon crawls. Each adventure throws a curveball. Puzzles, politics, persuasion, full-blown heists. I've written every word to make sure your campaign feels fresh, surprising, and unforgettable. Escape from the Fae, the sequel to Into the Fae, will take your party from level 5 to 11 and contains 3 new Fae races, 3 Fae-themed subclasses, and nearly 100 new Fae creatures. And it's coming to Kickstarter this fall, so follow Escape from the Fae at the link below so you don't miss out on the exclusive backer bonuses and early bird pricing. So we were crawling through a ruined temple full of cursed statues and reanimated priests. Cool setting, solid monsters, but something just felt off. Halfway through the crawl, one of the players said, "So wait, what is this place?" The table went quiet. I shrugged. They shrugged. We kept playing. That's a problem. A dungeon without a purpose is just a pile of rooms. If your players don't know what the dungeon used to be, who built it, or why it's there now, you've missed a huge opportunity. Dungeons don't need walls. Well, actually they do, but they also need context. Was it a prison, a temple, a wizard's private pantry? Even if it's been taken over by monsters, give players a sense of history. Let them find clues, inscriptions, murals, broken furniture. Make them wonder what happened here, and tie those clues into the monsters that live there now. A dungeon with no story is just a slow motion combat encounter. One time I played through a dungeon that had a demon, a giant spider, a vampire, and a gelatinous cube. In that order. No transitions, no themes, just vibes. Whatever that means. It felt like a random encounter table had been dropped into a hallway or a series of rooms. Dungeons should have a cohesive theme. That doesn't mean every monster needs to be the same type, but there should be a sense of internal logic. A fire cultist's lair might include salamanders, fire traps, and ash-covered murals. A dungeon built by Fae might use illusions, sleep spells, and mirrors. If your dungeon has multiple environments, say an icy cave leading into a dwarven ruin, build transitional spaces that blend the themes. Frozen stonework, abandoned forges buried in snow. Your goal is to make the dungeon feel like a place that exists, not a grab bag of encounters. Pick a theme. Reinforce it with monsters, hazards, descriptions, even the rules you emphasize at the table. I once ran a dungeon where every single room was a fight. Room, roll initiative, kill, loot, and move on and do the same. It was like watching someone button mash through an RPG boss rush. No tension, no mystery, just fatigue. A good dungeon is more than just combat. It's all 3 pillars of play: combat, exploration, and social interaction. Even in a classic dungeon crawl, you need to give players a chance to interact with the environment. Add puzzles if that's your thing. Add strange, magical phenomena. Add weird NPCs, ghosts, trapped creatures, neutral monsters with their own goals. What the heck is a trapped creature, by the way? My scriptwriter screwed that up again, apparently. And most importantly, add rooms without combat. Let players explore, let them breathe. Because if your dungeon is just fight, 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 players will stop caring, especially when the fights all start to feel the same. By the way, if you're enjoying this information, finding it useful perhaps, please give me a thumbs up and share this video with a fellow game master. And drop me a comment down below. Let us know about the worst dungeon you've ever been in, and you know why it sucked. We were 5 rooms deep, running low on spells, and one player said, let's short rest. Not that that would help with the spell problem, but bless his heart, he was trying. Anyway, I looked at the map. There was nowhere safe. The next room was full of undead. The previous one was still on fire, and the hallway was a death trap. They hated it, and I couldn't blame them. Longer dungeons, especially multi-session ones, need safe spaces. Not like safe spaces like you're thinking, right? But like safe spaces where you can rest. These are called rest nodes or refuges, and they give players a strategic option. Do we push forward? Do we risk resting here? Because you know, they don't know for sure that it's safe. It doesn't have to be a cozy inn. Maybe it's a locked room. Maybe it's a zone blessed by a forgotten god. Maybe it's a place the monsters avoid, but whatever it is, give your players breathing room. Let them regroup, because dungeons aren't supposed to be a single endurance check. They're supposed to be tactical puzzles, and that means knowing when to rest is just as important as knowing when to fight. The final boss was a red dragon. We'd spent the whole dungeon fighting goblins and traps, and then, surprise, dragon. Players were confused, unprepared, and honestly kind of annoyed. If your dungeon has a boss or a twist, it needs a little bit of foreshadowing. This is one of the easiest tools in a DM's belt. You don't have to tell them exactly what's coming, just hint at it. Burn marks on the walls, huge claw gouges, a survivor mumbling about wings and fire. Let the players piece it together. Of course, that last one is probably pretty obvious at that point, but you get my point. Foreshadowing builds tension. It lets players prepare as well. It rewards them for paying attention, and it makes the final encounter feel earned. Surprise can be fun, but it's almost always better when players get to anticipate the danger before it arrives. I've played dungeons where the party was told to go clear it out. That's it. No real reason, no reward either, no time pressure, just wandering from room to room, killing things because the DM said so. And that's boring, and players feel it. Your dungeon needs a goal. Rescue a hostage, retrieve an artifact, stop a ritual, something, anything. Because without a goal, the adventure doesn't feel like a story, it feels like a checklist. And good goals come with tongue and teeth. They come with stakes. What happens if the players fail? What happens if they take too long? Even something as simple as save the villagers before nightfall adds urgency. Give the dungeon meaning beyond it's full of monsters. Make the players care about what's inside and what happens when they leave. I hate to say it, but some of you are still using step on a plate, take 2d10 as a trap. Come on, we can do better than that. Traps should be part of gameplay, not just a random damage that gets thrown out here and there just because they didn't look in the right place or they rolled poorly on their perception. Let players notice traps. Let them figure out how to bypass them. Let them fail in interesting ways. The best traps are like puzzles. They have clues. They make players stop and think. They make them paranoid. A hallway filled with dart holes is way scarier than one that just triggers damage with no warning. Also, mix it up. Use magical traps, social traps, environmental traps. Make traps that fit your dungeon's theme and make the players feel clever when they survive them. Because a good trap is memorable, and a bad one is just wasted time and lost hit points. We cleared out the dungeon. No boss, no treasure, no story, just the last room was empty. The DM said, that's it, and we all packed up and headed home. It was like watching a movie that ends mid-sentence. Your dungeon needs a payoff. Not just loot, but something to mark the climax. A major encounter, a dangerous puzzle, a moral choice. Something that ties back to the dungeon's theme and gives players closure. A boss fight is great, but that's not the only option. Maybe the dungeon is collapsing. Maybe the artifact corrupts the wizard. Maybe the party finds a prisoner who knows too much. The point is, don't let your dungeon end with a whimper. Let it end with a bang. Something that makes the player sit back and go, well, That was cool. But anyway, that's just what I think. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. And don't forget to follow Escape from the Fae at the link below as well. Trust me, you don't want to miss this exciting sequel to Into the Fae. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. I wrote it. I think it's pretty cool. Now, if you'd like to hear about 5 ways your Dungeon Master is likely cheating, watch this video right here. And until next time, happy game mastering.